Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs, Golden Mastermind Seminars podcast. And the topic today is very applicable because it's my anniversary today. Today is my 36th anniversary of being clean and sober. So good to be here with you. This is a very unique day for me. Every year, my real birthday is January 12th, 1957. So that means that I will be 68 years old. Hard to believe that at times. I'll be 68 years old in January. But today is a very special day in infamy for me, a day of infamy. December 17th, 1988, I took my last drink. And December 18th, 1988 was my first day of sobriety. So it is a very unique day for me. Josh, good to see you. Josh, you understand what that means. So it's my sober date today. And as fate would have it, this is just how the universe operates. So as you learn to let go of your anxiety, fear, and doubt, and as you understand synchronicity, and for those of you who did not watch my Facebook Live last night, if possible, watch the replay on Synchronicity, Synchrodestiny. I did it late last night, so you can watch it on replay. So today is my 36th year of sobriety. The day I took my last drink. Tomorrow is my first day. And Sunday night I was having dinner in my favorite restaurant. And Josh, you know where this is. I was at Prime Table Restaurant. And this guy walks by me and his name's Eddie Zuckerman. And I go, Eddie! And I get out of my booth and I get up and I give him a big hug. Eddie's a multimillionaire. He's the owner of Mandeville Zuckerman Farms. And they are the largest bluegrass and asparagus grower in California. Multi-millionaire family, first-class people. Well, when I went to my very first meeting at the Pershing Group, and the Pershing Group was where I went to my first AA meeting outside of being in a heroin alcohol clinic. Eddie Zuckerman was chairing the meeting, and it was his 2-year anniversary. So it was in January when I went to that meeting, and Eddie walks by my table Sunday night. I get up and give him a hug, and his wife's name is Sarah. Sarah was a newcomer at that meeting, and Sarah was there. Both these people were at the very first meeting I went to in Stockton, California. I moved here sight unseen, and then I see them Sunday night, and then my anniversary is on Tuesday, and so I gave a big hug to them. We had dropped a few tears. 3 of us were hugging, and Sarah has 36 years of sobriety. Eddie has 38, and I mean, what are the odds of that happening? High. So that's very high, because that always happens to me. And that can also happen to you as you let go of the payoff. And when you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feeling, you're changing the whole history of your neurological network of neurons that wire and fire. As you learn to separate your feelings. So the separation means that you're no longer addicted to the experience. And the payoff is you're experiencing the experience, and this keeps you in lower consciousness. Now, here was a breakthrough book that I bought way, way back in the day. So this book was by Ken Keyes. And Ken Keyes also wrote the book, The 100th Monkey. And I have that book sitting right over there. I'll show it to you at some point. But this is the Handbook to Higher Consciousness. This is a new version of it. My original version, I broke it down after years of use. So long before I ever read Stuart Wilde, or long before I ever read David Hawkins, I was reading that content. Now, for those of you who do not have this book, this is your home study guide right here, The Map of Consciousness Explained. Anything you want to know and or understand is going to be in this book. And it's very deep, it's very detailed, and it requires methodical, systematic reading so that you can understand the map of consciousness. And the key to understanding higher consciousness is right here. That's your pineal gland, and the pineal gland in most of America and most of the world, most of the population, their pineal gland is calcified due to the trauma-based mind control they've experienced, the trauma they've experienced as children through sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, chronic, constant shaming, guilting, and criticism. And this breaks down the neurological network of neurons that wire and fire that form higher consciousness and will keep you in anxiety, fear, and doubt. And for those of you who've coached with me for years, understand the content that I've been sharing for 26 years, and then the sobriety recovery that I've assisted people to understand, many of you are beginning to grasp it. So you grasp it, and so grasping it means that you're stepping into the understand stage, which is acceptance. And so courage, acceptance, and willingness are the trifecta of breakthrough. So as you actually have the courage to stay in a business when everyone's telling you to throw in the towel, they're saying get a real job. I mean, get a play check, get a pair of tweezers and get a play check and hold it. And there are times that you have to get a real job. I've done it. And you're not selling out. You're getting a real job. Thank you, James. So good to see you. And Josh Waxman, thank you for all your team. Corinne, thank you very much. And James, say hello to your just amazing wife. You and Audrey are just top tier people. So thank you for being here. Charlie Red, thank you for being here. I'm covering the map of consciousness right here today. So if you can understand this, if you can understand this content today, this will bring you closer to God. This will bring you closer to yourself. And this will attract people to you in a different way than you've ever given yourself permission, because as you understand the map of consciousness, that we're all energetic beings, and we oscillate and we transmute energy at levels of consciousness. And so the lowest level of consciousness at the very bottom of the pyramid, so down here at the very bottom, it is called apathy and grief. And when you're in apathy and grief, you're in the lowest level of transmutational energy that you could possibly be in, next to guilt and shame. So those are the four emotions that will keep you in a very low level of consciousness, where it relegates you to just doing menial tasks and menial jobs. And then the next level of emotion you access is overwhelm. So those five emotions right there, what happens is that 81% of the population lives in those five emotions. And that's why those five emotions are the ones that are medicated the most. They're the most susceptible to being medicated. And that medication then keeps them addicted to the set of feelings that they're already addicted to. And that medication is petrochemicals, it's methamphetamine, it's cocaine, it's heroin. And this all began to happen in the 50s through the Rockefeller Medical Pharmaceutical Foundation, who began to strip doctors away from naturopathic and homeopathic remedies. It starts in the 20s as the Rockefeller Foundation starts to fund medical schools, eventually pharmacy schools. And then in 70s, the wonder drug, the Ritalin, begins to get released to America. And then by the 80s and 90s, it becomes the wonder drug for children. And then the acronyms ADD, ADHD, PTSD, and then of course bipolar. And if you do your history, you'll find that not that many people had these acronyms in the 30s, 40s, and 50s like it is today. And then if any major city in America today, you go down the street, and how many people are on Ozempic and semaglutide? Well, all of this brings your consciousness down, takes you further away from God. And when you're in this low level of vibrational energy, this low level of emotional state, I mean, you still can pray and you can access that, and you can pray and you can meditate, and you can cold bath and cold plunge, and you can detox, and you can do steam baths, and you can do saunas. All of this will assist you temporarily, but it's going to be your responsibility to understand that as an emotional being, it's going to be your responsibility to find joy, bliss, inspiration. That's the love factor of consciousness. And then there's the awareness, understanding, knowing, and then there's truth, trust, and then there's enlightenment. And so enlightenment is what brings you closer to God, Christ consciousness. It brings you to a place where you're in the state of one with. And in this state of consciousness is where synchronicity happens at a much higher law of average. This is when people show up in your life. But it's going to be your responsibility to have a business or a free enterprise situation that these people that show up, you want to be able to have a service, a benefit, a feature that you can offer these people, because they're going to be willing to buy from you. So when you're in a relaxed state of consciousness, you're beginning to access what is called gamma. And the gamma brainwave state releases a neurochemical called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And that dimethyltryptamine is called the chill factor. I mean, you're just chilling in that factor. And you're smooth, you're ice. And people will buy from you. People will join you. People will follow you. People will walk up to you and they'll ask you questions, because the energy you're emoting and transmitting comes from love. It comes from joy. It comes from bliss. And it's pure. It's organic. It comes from God. You're not borrowing it from anywhere. It's you. It's the real you. But the lower self, which is the ego that processes, thinks, analyzes, rationalizes, has to think things through, has to think it over, and has to be right. And so that all of that content that you're in takes you out of both brains, and that's where most of society lives. They live in solely a left brain type of consciousness. And so that's the rational brain, and that takes you away from the vagus nerve, which accesses you to your gut, hence the term gut feeling, shuts down the vagus nerve. And then in brain fog, what happens is the hippocampus enlarges, prefrontal cortex enlarges, amygdala shrinks. Amygdala is your emotional engine, pea-sized gland behind your left ear that searches for a familiar feeling. It's also called the reticular activating system. And those are the feelings you're sending of love and joy and bliss. And if you have a direct sales business, a coaching business, a network marketing business, an insurance business, a real estate business, you're an influencer, affluencer, and you have a business that you have leverage in, well, you require customers, you require teammates, you require people who can produce. And in the higher law of average, in this state of higher consciousness, you'll attract your reality more frequently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these people in a year or in a couple of years' time as you are concurrently letting go of your anxiety, fear, and doubt. This explains the phenomenon of someone having a $100,000 month or a $100,000 day. It's because who you attract, who you develop, who you mentor, who you lead, and then who you duplicate. And this is a real skill. In this skill, you can be a superstar producer, but in consciousness, it's important that you're able to attract your reality other like-minded, and then you fill in the blank. Success seekers, customers, clients, people who you can collaborate with, people who see the value of your service and benefits and features. And so this is self-esteem. This requires letting go of the anxiety, fear, and doubt, the voice that goes off in your head that says, who are you to think you're not good enough? You grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. You got held back in school. You have ADD, ADHD. You didn't graduate from college. You dropped out. You've waited tables. You've bartended. You bust. You've never had any real success. Well, that's maybe the truth, but in objectivity, you're able to see the situation for what it is. And in objectivity, as you let go of the filters, you're able to see the situation for what it is, and that's called an opportunity. And opportunities are never lost. They're seized by a few people who are capable. But most people will talk themselves out of an opportunity, then they'll delay it. They'll say after the first of the year, after this or after that, and whenever they're going to get around to it. And that's your responsibility to really understand and hear these people so you can hear what they mean along with what they say. And as you become skilled at this, now you're separating yourself from the trauma, from the panic patterns, from the anxiety, fear, and doubt. And if you're not able to separate yourself, then you'll be intoxicated by it, then you'll be disappointed, you'll be frustrated, and you won't have the speed required to own a business. To own a business, it requires a certain level of speed, and it cannot be actualized in the left brain only. This is why people who are rational thinkers and who overthink situations and are problem solvers don't have the intuition and don't have the reflexes to move the ball fast enough to create the results required in free enterprise. Now, you can be a left brain thinker and find jobs and careers that really foster that, but in free enterprise, that does not happen. You have to have the speed of intuition. You have to have the speed of sound. You have to have the speed of light. You have to be able to create decisions quickly. You can't overthink everything and then just sit on the bench and procrastinate and get ready to get ready. You can't use the start-stop method either. In free enterprise and business, it requires a consistent emotional behavior where you have emotional stability because other people are going to depend on you. And that means that you're dependable. But you have to be able to depend on yourself. So if you feel yourself melting down, that's normal, but it's also conditional, and it's going to be your responsibility not to relapse back into the experience to experience this experience that's called the payoff. And as you become skilled in higher consciousness, you're able to actually interrupt that feeling because you become the observer. And as you observe yourself rather than participate, because if you're participating, you're headed for a breakdown. You're headed for a relapse. And that will take you to alcohol, pornography, gambling. It'll take you to the refrigerator. It'll take you to the pharmacy. It'll take you to any multitude of situations because your ego wants to take the edge off. And it's going to be your responsibility to sit there right there in the middle of that emotion and realize that you're good enough and that you're capable and you can breathe through this situation without melting down, without crashing, without hitting rock bottom. It's very overrated. And you require a consistent emotional stability to be able to be and stay in higher consciousness. And so that means you begin to practice what's called non-attachment. And non-attachment is very confusing to most of the planet because it doesn't mean you're detached, it means you're non-attached. And in a non-attached state, you're not taking it personal. And when you're not taking it personal, you're in very high consciousness because that is called humility. If you're in low consciousness, that will be pride. And so in pride, then you'll turn an experience from pride, you'll turn it into a rejection. You'll turn it into an abandonment. You'll turn it into someone did something to you rather than owning the situation and being objective about it. This is why sobriety is such a valuable skill. And the skill of sobriety doesn't just mean you're not drinking, because you can be a dry drunk. And I see that Scott's on today's Facebook Live. Scott is like me. He has a lot of sobriety, a lot of practice. He's been in the game a long time. Thank you, Scott, for being here. Scott once presented me a chip at one of my events. He presented me with a really cool gift at one of my events back in the day. Josh Waxman, who's also on the call, was at that event. And as unique as that was the last time I spoke at a generic event. I believe it was March 8th of 2020 in Philadelphia back in the day. So Bo Armstrong is here. Bo's been a longtime follower. And Corinne, good to see you. Corinne's a longtime follower. Dorothy Wart's been following me and coaching with me since 2002 and has seen me speak multiple times. So this book right here, these two books, these are awesome books for you. Handbook to Higher Consciousness by Ken Keyes. Also wrote a brilliant book called The 100th Monkey Theory. And this is a game changer right here, The Map of Consciousness Explained. So once again, keep in context that we are energetic, emotional beings, and we transmute our feelings at hertz or cycles per second. And so the higher vibration you're in is God, enlightenment, and deity, source, consciousness. Lower vibration, the rock bottom of lower vibration, is apathy, grief, and guilt and shame. Those four emotions, then right above that is overwhelm. And now most of the planet lives in an overwhelmed state, and this is why they procrastinate, avoid, and get ready to get ready. So in calibrated energy, the bottom of consciousness is 25 to 50 cycles a second, and the highest level of consciousness is 1,000. Your objective is to learn how to be and stay in a level of calibrated consciousness of around 300 to 350 cycles a second. Now, if you can master your emotion to be and stay in that state, you're going to attract business partners, you're going to attract customers and clients, you'll have people that ask you to speak for them, your church groups, your spiritual groups, your 12-step groups are going to want you to be a leader for them. And then in that state of consciousness, you're not worried about it, you're not overthinking it, it's not a burden, you're not in this mistake consciousness, oh my God, I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to get in trouble. That is history, because you're living in a very relaxed state in higher consciousness in a relaxed body. And the objective is to be able to master your emotions so that you're able to observe yourself relapsing, which is fight or flight. It's a byproduct of trapped emotions called repressed feelings, and then the body is recreating a neurochemical response that it's emotionally addicted to. And so this is what precedes an addiction. It's a neurochemical response based on repressed and suppressed feelings that have not been addressed, and you're living in the state of denial, and then you're in the sauce before you even know it. And this explains the phenomenon of why people relapse every day. A good intention is not a good delivery, because an intention is not a commitment. And in pure sobriety, there are no cheat days. And so in no more cheat days, it means you don't cheat yourself out of a day of being your best self by relapsing back into anxiety, fear, and doubt and staying in it in long periods of time. You are human, you're going to relapse. But the degree of relapse is determined by your skill set to interrupt a feeling in mid-moment. This is what I've been teaching for 26 years. Everyone can master this. This does not require a PhD, a public high school diploma. It does not require education. It requires inspiration, the skill set and the willingness, the acceptance, and the courage to master your emotions. Every single person on the planet could do this. Everyone could get off medication. Everyone could have a healthy body. Everyone could detox, cleanse. Everyone could create more money. There'd be more goodwill. There'd be more ambassadorship. We'd be closer to God if we would just actually practice these simple skills of letting go. Letting go is not as complicated as you think it is. It's a very, very misunderstood skill set, very easy to master when you let me teach it to you, or you yourself do what I've done. I've been practicing it for 36 years, and for the first 10 of it, I was a dry drunk, and I was very angry and had multiple emotional relapses and business failures, but I never drank, which was one condition that kept me in the game, and I never cheated, and I never stole, and so I started to practice rigorous honesty, and it's honesty, it's acceptance. So I was practicing that. Acceptance means that I was stepping out of denial, and then willingness, I was doing my part, but the results weren't showing up automatically. Now, in today's world of business, it's so much easier, and it's not that it's so much. You have a much higher possibility of being able to create a 5-figure income in today's free enterprise than it was in my era. My era, we had phone bills of 26 to 38 cents a minute. I mean, we didn't have the lead opportunities that you have now, and we didn't have social media, but still, it was an absolute great time to be an entrepreneur. I was listening to Jim Rohn all the time. I was reading Mark Victor Hansen's books, and I was reading Tom Hopkins' books, which is amazing because eventually I shared the stage with all of those men. Tom Hopkins, Bob Proctor, Mark Victor Hansen, Jim Rohn. I shared the stage with every one of those people multiple times throughout my early career. And so the keys to higher consciousness right here today are you to be able to breathe, release, and let go. The simplicity of it. When you feel anxious, take a long, deep breath from your abdomen back to the back of your mouth. Let it go and release it, and say that, release. And so the more that you practice letting go, the separation between the feelings and the events that shape them, then you are not the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. So if you just came on late on the call, I'm going to hit the record button. You can watch the replay of it, and you can listen to this content. I'll also be back online this evening at 9 p.m. Pacific. Today is my 36th year of sobriety. Scott Lucas sent me a message this morning. Thank you, Scott. December 17th, 1988, I had my last drink. And December 18th, 1988, I had my first day of sobriety. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here with me this afternoon on a Breathe, Release, and Let Go. Matt Smith, good to see you this afternoon. Tom Nash, good to see you. Jonna Aina, good to see you. So good to see all of you here this afternoon. Amber James, I saw Debbie Fair. I saw a lot of you here this afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored that you were here. Breathe, release, and let go. And Corinne, thank you very much. So good to see you. And have a great afternoon. I'm going to hit the record button if you'd like to watch the replay.